The June 20th, 2023 meeting of the Collington School District Board of Directors is called to order. Mr. Javon, I haven't seen you in a long time. Would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the Secretary please call the roll?
I'm back here.
Okay.
Director Honchar,
Here.
Director Frank,
He is not able to be here tonight.
Director Apple,
He is not able to be here tonight.
Director Simsek,
Here.
Director Puskar,
Here.
Director O'Brien,
Here.
Director Zaletsky,
Here.
Director Vogliano,
Here.
Director Shriver.
Here. There's a time at the beginning of each meeting where we invite the public to ask any questions about items that are on our agenda. Does anybody in the audience have questions for agenda items tonight? If not, we have time at the end, we can ask open questions about any item. Minutes from previous meetings, I'll entertain a motion to approve two items. The minutes from the voting meeting of May 16th, 2023, and then secondly, the committee meeting minutes from June 13th, 2023. I have a motion for those two items.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Executive session. So we had an executive session prior to this meeting where we discussed safety items and personnel matters. And I will now turn to Dr. Craig for his report.
Very good. Thank you, Director Shriver. And I'll be reporting from the podium. And on the superintendent report, this evening we have a few school board policies that are up for revision. We have second reading of several policies that were passed for first reading at our last meeting. Those I'm not going to review. I hit those at the last meeting. However, we do have several other policies, I believe 8 of those that are on tonight. So just to give you an idea of what those policies and the recommendations are in regard to that. Policy 137.1 deals with homeless education programs, which last month and for the second reading we have policy 137, which also deals with the home education program. So this is also an updated policy. In this one, there's just some minor changes that require some notification in regard to extracurricular and athletic activities and any types of procedures involved with eligibility. So that is in regard to any student who is involved with home education program. Just requires the district to advertise a little bit more aggressively towards what programs are available to students. School Board Policy 150, comparability of services. In general, it just shifts the delegation of responsibility for towards our federal programs coordinator in regard to completing reports. Everything else in that policy remains the same. It's just shifting the responsibility. 249 is the bullying and cyberbullying. Again, this is an update to a policy, 249. Basically what it does is it extends the definition of bullying specifically to include also off-campus events. We've had some other policies in the past that we have talked about, and recent legislation and case law that has identified when school districts can get involved with off-campus speech, off-campus behavior. So the new definition of bullying does include off-campus behavior, but under the same criteria that's listed in legislation and case law. It also includes language in regard to threat assessment, very common in some other policies that we recently passed as well. In the event that bullying behavior would rise to the level of the threat assessment team to go through and review that, threat assessment team would jump in to review that. School Board Policy 251 has some pretty substantial changes to it. It is originally in our policy right now, 1.5 pages to 2 pages. This policy now extends out to 5 pages in depth. And the reason for that is not only does it recognize homeless students, but it also recognizes students that are under foster care and those who are experiencing some other educational instability issues as well. So it takes not just the homeless, but then also puts in 2 other categories. So throughout that document, it also goes through and it defines not only homeless, but then also defines foster child and also defines educational instability. It indicates that superintendent can waive different types of responsibilities, different requirements for students who are in those particular situations. Graduation deadlines, fees, dress code are some of the areas that were added to the policy that we can take a look at and waive. Homeschool visitor basically serves as the point of contact, which they currently do. However, in our old policy, it's not listed as the homeschool visitor as the primary contact. Bethany Mudd serves as our homeschool visitor right now. She deals primarily with this group of students. Eases some of the documentation that's required from students meeting these definitions. It also implements a dispute and resolution process if there are any disputes in regard to the policy with any homeless, with any foster, or any educational instability student as they move through their services. And basically, it also allows us to share personal identification information with outside agencies and also the court system when it's necessary to provide educational services, and also tend to the safety needs of individual students as well. Also talks about transportation needs, course credit for graduation, and then also puts language in there about the Keystone Diploma. Keystone Diploma is something that's relatively new within the past 1.5 to 2 years that has certain criteria that students, if they don't have access to the full education program here at Carleton, they can also get what's called a Keystone Diploma, which is issued then by the state, and kids have to meet certain criteria. For example, if they don't meet all 24 credits that we require for graduation, if they missed a few due to their situation, then we can waive that aspect of the policy, and students can then be issued a Keystone Diploma. School Board Policy 252 is the dating policy. The only revision there is similar to the previous, is just includes language about threat assessment. So in the event of the dating violence situation, if the threat assessment team needs to get involved, we solicit the input there. 626, federal and fiscal compliance. There puts the federal program coordinator, serves as the point of contact. And then also any type of staff payment procedures that we have in place would also apply with any type of use of federal funds. I think the update in this area is the result of many of the ESSER funds coming through, that being issues in regard to paying specific employees. The PSBA is making the recommendation for that addition to that policy. 705, facilities and workplace safety. Our current 705 is just workplace, I think it's just facilities. This includes facilities, workplace safety. So that terminology changes. Requires adherence to state and local safety orders, which throughout the past several years we've abided by that anyway. And provides ongoing education to assist with compliance. So that can be signage in the hallways, any type of professional development. It can include emails with information out to staff just to bring their level of awareness towards facilities and workplace safety. School calendar, not a major update there, but what it allows us to do is it addresses any emergency situations. It's still required that school districts offer the hours, the 180 school days in a school year, the 900 hours and the 990 hours that are differentiated between the elementary and secondary schools, but allows us to offer instructional activities in different forms. So generally the interpretation of that is that remote learning also qualifies for days of instruction. On tonight's agenda, we also have our FID renewal. Last time we did the flexible instruction days was 3 years ago. So those plans are good for 3 years. This policy more aligns with our FID policy as well. That concludes the aspect of the policy updates. Any questions in regard to policy updates that are on the board agenda for this evening? Okay.
I just wanted to say, to commend the district for taking a student-centered approach regarding students who are experiencing homelessness and making sure that we are supporting those students as they go through the educational process. I think that's really important, and I'm glad to see that there are circumstances under which we can really support them to be full participants within our district. So thank you for your leadership on that.
thank you for recognizing that, because that policy did truly expand a lot of the services that we, and in general, it's making sure we meet the needs of all kids, regardless of their situation, regardless of any challenges that they have in life. We're here to serve our kids, and that policy, I agree, exemplifies that. Okay, so in May of this school year, SIFMA, which is the Securities Industries and Financial Markets Association, and their foundation made an announcement of winning teams and congratulated nearly 6,500 kids nationwide who competed in the 2023 Capitolville Challenge. It's a national financial education program. It's underwritten by the Charles Schwab Foundation. So I am pleased to report that we have one member. We had two members compete. One member is with us this evening. We had Caden Heiser competed, and with us this evening we have Tyler Seaton. Both of those individuals are sophomores. Carleton was among one of the top 10 schools that were able to compete nationwide. So 6,500 kids recognized nationwide. Carleton making the list as one of the top 10 schools to go down to Washington, D.C. to compete. So it absolutely a huge honor. When you take a look at the number of schools, those 10 schools, none came from our region. It was just Carleton. But other schools came from Arkansas, New York, North Carolina, Connecticut, Virginia, Oklahoma, Iowa, South Carolina, and New Jersey. So it was quite an accomplishment for our students to meet this level. They were able to travel down to DC on June 14th, last week. And I believe, were you able to meet with Representative Chris DeLucio as well?
He was voting on the floor at the time, so we couldn't.
Okay.
He was getting ready for the baseball game that night too. Right. So, but we met with his office.
Okay.
Right.
The plan was for each of the teams going down was to be able to meet with their representatives who took a role in helping organize things. But throughout the competition, just as far as what our kids did, was basically they took, it was $100,000 of basically fictitious money, took that money, invested it in bonds, money market, cash, capital, different types of investment procedures, developed their portfolio, and then moved that forward, which brought them to the recognition that they truly earned. So a little bit about Tyler since he's here. Tyler's a sophomore. One of the things that Tyler has engaged in this year as a sophomore, very high achieving student in coursework this year in both entrepreneurial innovations and also Money and You. Those are two courses that we offer here at the junior senior high school, generally available to 9 through 12 students. And then Caden, as a sophomore, who's not with us tonight, has also engaged in Accounting 1, Accounting 2, Business and Personal Law, and previously enrolled when he was in 9th grade, Sports Marketing and Advertising, and also Money and You as well. So you can see the coursework that we've developed over the past few years, especially in BCIT, has created authentic learning opportunities for our kids to engage in, and then take that learning, apply it to authentic situations, and then being recognized on a national level, I think is tremendous. So Mr. Javadan is with us tonight. He's the sponsor, worked with the kids through the process, teaches many of our BCIT classes. I think in any given day, he teaches 6 different classes. So the preparation that he has to go through on a daily basis to prep and prepare, I think is tremendous. It's a reflection of his dedication to Carleton. We're very, very pleased to have him on staff. So I want to turn things over to him, let him say a few
Yeah,
words.
I'll just, this experience doesn't happen all the time, so I just want to share a little bit about what happened on these 3 days. Number one, the students got a good education on they better wear good shoes when they go to DC. Because I think in 2 days we clocked about 30 miles. So I think we were limping a little bit and saying, Mr. G, I can't do anymore. Can we just go back to the hotel? So Washington DC is so special.
And you could handle it, Tom.
You probably wore Hayden's.
I'm a little tougher than most. Let's be honest, but they flew us down there, which was awesome. Flight was delayed a little bit, but we got down there on time. And then that night we had a sightseeing tour via motor coach, and we went to all the memorials, which even it was like 2 days of sightseeing, and that's not even enough. I mean, it's just, it's an outstanding place. And then the second night we had, or the second day we started with breakfast at Morgan Stanley. So they had us at their offices for breakfast, and there was a bunch of financial professionals that spoke with the students there. And then from there we went to the Capitol building, and we took a tour of the Capitol building with Senator Casey's staff. We were, like I said, we were supposed to meet with Chris DeLuzio, but he was not in his office, so we met with his staff as well. And we took a tour of the Capitol again, which is a phenomenal building. After that, we had our reception where not only were we in the top 10, but we were third. Right, out of 1,500 teams, we were third.
That's amazing.
It truly is. And so from there, we at this reception, we were able to give a speech. And we planned this speech out in class, and Caden read it a few times. And he had it on his phone like all kids do, right? And which I'm okay with. Then he went up there and I said, well, Tyler, just go up. Caden has the speech. So next thing you know, Caden, I said, don't forget to thank Charles Schwab. I said, we have that in our speech. They're like, yeah, we have it. So next thing you know, Caden just starts going off. I'm like, what are you doing, Caden? And then Caden turns to Tyler and said, okay, say something. Tyler didn't even know that he was going to say something. So my point is that these kids will always surprise you, no matter how well we're there. He came back, and meanwhile, I'm in the audience saying, read your phone. It's on your phone. So he came back, and then he said, I thought it would be better if I just, went off the cuff. I'm like, are you kidding? Did I not prepare you for anything? But no, but he did a great job. And what's neat about what Caden did with his investments too, and what this team did, is it made all its money in the first, I would say, month of the competition. So it was up to like 108,000, and then he sold everything, and then he had to wait there. And the discipline and patience that because every day we came into class and we checked, and you think about an engaging activity, that's one, but every day he would check it. I'm like, are you going to do anything? No. But he just sat there the whole time, and he went from like, I think at one point he was in first place, and down to sixth, and up to, and we settled on third, but just phenomenal. Then, so that was the reception. And then the next morning we had another breakfast at RBC Wealth Management where a number of individuals spoke to us there. Then we ended up at the Spy Museum. Ty, your favorite part?
I like the computers and like playing the games on the computers.
At the
Spy Museum.
At the Spy Museum. Then our real education started when we were on our way to the airport. So our flight was supposed to leave at 8, right? Then it got pushed back to 8:30, 9:30. Then our flight was canceled. I'm in DC with 2 kids, and it's canceled. I'm like, are you?
And what time is it?
Now it's 11:30. And I'm not a world traveler, so I don't know the ins and outs of the airport. As soon as it was canceled, the whole flight started sprinting to customer service. I'm like, what is going on? Well, Caden and Tyler just happened to be there, and they saw everyone sprinting, so they just got in line. I said, what are you in line for? They said, I don't know. I'm like, okay, now we're learning a little bit. So, and I didn't even really know what we were in line for. So now it's pushing midnight. So we went, and they gave us a voucher for a hotel. I'm like, are you kidding me? The hotel's 5 minutes away. So not only did we get to ride a taxi, we learned about the metro down there, right? We learned about taxi, we learned about Uber. Now we're going to learn about staying in Fleabag Hotel. So now it's after midnight. I'm like, they wanted to stay at the hotel. I'm like, they wanted to stay at the airport. I'm like, maybe we can get 2 hours of good sleep. So we went back Tyler, of course, said, no, I'm gonna stay up all night, and he was the first one to sleep. Never did he probably think in a million years that I'd be sharing a room with Mr. G in Washington, D.C. So then, the next night, we made sure the taxi was there at 5 o'clock, so we had to get up early to get back, so we could go through security again. So, okay, I think we were supposed to leave at 7:30, next thing you know, they pushed it back to 8, on the runway, we're ready to take off. You got the clearance. Next thing you know, the plane turns around. Really? Are you kidding me? The plane turns around. They deboard us. We have to get off the plane. Now people are in a mad rush. Now, again, like going to customer service, what do they do? And again, this is DC, so these people are just telling, go here, go here, go here. So we were now in a little bit of a panic because we don't know if this flight is ever taking off, because rumors that the Pittsburgh, everything was shut down. So again, these guys are like, we'll just drive. I'm like, drive? I slept for 2 hours. I said, do you want me to drive? And then, how are we going to get this car? And how are we? So eventually Tyler was showing me the weather the whole time. Mr. G, we're not taking off. I said, planes can fly in the rain, Ty, they can. So next thing you know, we had to drive home. So we got a car, we got a taxi, another taxi to Georgetown this time. So we saw a little bit of Georgetown, and then from Georgetown we drove home back to the airport. So we talk about an education. That is probably the greatest educational experience Tyler and Caden will ever have in their life, hands down.
And that flight, I think, was delayed, your flight.
Right, so it wasn't, right.
It was delayed, the 8:30 flight you were supposed to be on was delayed.
Right, so it would have been like at 9
They're
o'clock.
saying they could have been over there
9 o'clock
another
at
night.
So
They
we
were-
made it, tremendous experience, and again, probably a once in a lifetime learning experience for these guys. So,
Congratulations.
yeah.
I have a question. I want to add to my portfolio. The symbol is ENR. Do you have any thoughts on Enron Corporation? Did you learn about that?
You know what that is?
Oh.
That was before its time.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
All right, so Tyler, who do you have joining you tonight? Who's with you tonight
My
here?
mom, Pam Seaton.
There you go. All right, why don't you come on up here, Tyler? So Tyler, what we have is a little
Oh, wow.
seal there for you. Congratulations. It recognizes your community excellence and character. I think you certainly demonstrated all of those three that we look for in students here at Carleton. So thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your continued dedication and the way you approach learning. So let's get a good start.
Hey, Tyler. First of all, congrats.
Thank you.
Second of all, what got you interested in finance in general, and what made you take the class?
Well, I took the class because Mr. G was teaching it. You know, I liked Mr. G's power skills, and it was all fun. So, like, I thought it'd be easy. And it was really easy.
Just for your natural learning.
What did you think you learned through the class, not just in the competition, but in the class? What kinds of things did you learn?
We learned, like, how to handle money and, like, setting up, like, a credit card and, like, what to do and what not to do when, like, paying off your credit card and, like, paying it off early and making sure you don't go into debt.
Were there things that you learned that either surprised you or you wouldn't have suspected that existed, or?
Well, I didn't know much about, like, credit cards at first, so, like, it all surprised me learning about them and, like, learning that there's so much to them.
You don't get rich by saving, you get rich by, see if he remembers, because he took this first semester.
Saving,
You don't get rich by saving, you get rich by
investing.
investing, exactly. And the two most powerful words,
Yeah.
managing money is
A compound interest.
So that is things that we,
Good
and a shameless plug for Money in You class, I really do think it should be a requirement, financial.
Yeah,
literacy.
absolutely.
So that's my,
Good for you.
so that's my plug. It's a tremendous class and it benefits everybody.
Wonderful. Tyler, do you think any of your friends should take this class? I
Yeah.
think all of your friends should take this class.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to use the stuff that you learned in the class after you graduate from school?
Yeah, I am.
Cool.
Now you know how to invest.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you think our congressman should take this class? Yes.
Tyler, thank you very much for coming. Brian, thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, you guys are welcome to, welcome to
We'll see you
leave.
guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Feel free to listen
All
to
right.
Mr. Gilby.
Thanks a
If
lot.
you have any questions, keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, Kate is not as
Exactly. There you go.
All right. Have a good day.
Baby steps. While Keith is getting set up, I'll talk to my fellow board members. Anybody else want to echo what Mr. Javon said about having a personal finance class be required?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Unanimous? Yes? No? Maybe?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Or worth consideration?
I think there is a bill in the state senate requiring it.
So state aside, but for Carleton, us having our own approach saying we think it's important to, perhaps in advance of what the state might be.
I think that we should explore what that means for the schedule before we.
Schedule on personnel,
Yeah,
yeah, schedule on
absolutely.
personnel.
Right, but I'll echo his, and I think most of the board, on some level, agrees. Awesome. Sorry.
We ready?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So once again, we're at that time of the year where we've gone through all of our extensive meetings and great talks about the budget to actually go through now to finalize the budget tonight. So tonight you will be approving the final budget for the 2023-24 budget and also the millage rate for the next upcoming year. I'm going to go through just the highlights of the budget. There's no reason to go through all the big details about it, so we're just going to go quickly through this. I gave you two handouts. One is the actual presentation. The other is a paper that has the general fund draft budget. It's a lot of numbers on it. What this is, I'm not going to go through it at all, really. It's more of a reference for you. It kind of gives you a really nice view of 5 years back and the progression of the budget through for the revenues and expenditures. We do it two ways. The first page shows it by major function, and then the second page is by major object. So what it really is just a nice little overview so that you can see how we have progressed over the years, where our major increases have come, and different things with the budget itself. It does show the budget for 22-23 at the end, the estimated where we think we're going to be at the end of this current year, and then finally the budget for what you're going to be approving tonight. So, like I said, it's something that you can either read, start a campfire with, just don't wrap it up and throw it at me if I'm talking too long, because it will hurt my feelings. So, and that's, any questions on that? And if you're looking at it while we're going through, if you have any questions, absolutely, by all means, ask me. All right, so we'll dig into the budget. First thing that we always do is we have to figure out where are we going to be this year, this current year. How did we do with the current year? So in the first column, you can see what was budgeted this year. And what I'm estimating this year is our revenues have come in very well this year. So I believe that we're going to come in with a $990,977 increase to the revenues. And the majority of that was, we talked about this in several meetings, is our investments. Investments went crazy this year as far as, over the COVID years, we've been averaging $25,000, $26,000 a year for investments. But this year, it was astronomical. We were pushing almost $500,000, $600,000. So that's probably the bulk of it. Another one of the bigger areas that we saw was under the earned income tax collections. So that really is a great sign. It shows that the people in our community are working and are back to work. So earned income has, every year, it's starting to outpace itself from the previous year. So it's a very good sign. And then finally, the ESSER funds. The reason why I put the ESSER funds on there is there were some items that we thought that we were going to do last year that we actually did this year that we did not have budgeted, so it would increase the revenues, of course. And the same thing as far as with the ESSERs, as you see, earned expenditures. I'm projecting that we're going to be a little bit over for the expenditures of $100,657. So basically what that means is that the change to the fund balance is going to be an increase of approximately $890,320. That's just a real random guesstimate looking at numbers previous years of where we are. But if it looks the way it's going to happen, this is where it's going to be, is right around the $890,000, give or take, a couple $100,000.
Quick question. One of the reasons that it's still a soft number is that our fiscal year closes at the end of June, but then we have expenses that come in July and August.
July, August, we have revenues that come in for July and August, and we actually do have expenditures that we will go all the way up to the end of September and push back to the end of the year. So there is approximately, we looked at that today, there's approximately, last couple of years, about $300,000 to $400,000 worth of expenditures that are carried over into the next year. And not only that, our teachers, our professional group, and our aides are paid throughout the summer. So their salaries are, spread out over the period. So that's absolutely the reason why it was the soft numbers. So the expenditures with the increased projects, we did some extra building repairs, equipment repairs. Nursing services was a big cost this year, trying to one, find a nurse or finding available nursing services out there, and they're not cheap, as we've discussed before. And then overtime and maintenance and custodial, still a challenge of trying to find staffing. So that's where I believe that we are going to be. Like I said, soft number, it could change, but it's going to be fairly close to that area. So with that, then we can move on to where we are going to be tonight. So tonight, what we're looking at is total revenues of $33,956,779. We are able to balance the budget. The expenditures are going to be the same, so there will be no use of the fund balance for this budget. And basically what I'd like to do is show is that difference from the estimated, it's a 1% decrease. And if you look at the budget expenditures, it's a 1.2% decrease. And the biggest reason why those decreases happens is that we did budget for ESSER projects that are completed. They were the big ticket numbers that I will discuss a little bit later that are no longer in there. So we're going to start seeing the budget gradually getting back to pre-COVID ESSER years. All right. There's no tax increase needed in this budget. What we were able to do is take advantage of the federal ESSER money to offset some of our expenditures, to allow us to give a tax break to the community. We've discussed it in full with both the board, with Dr. Kreider and administrators to see, is it feasible to do? And yes, it's feasible to do. So I was able to build this budget without a tax increase. The next line, the tax assessments decreased by $3,674,250. So our total assessed value is the 726. There's a lot of things I'm trying to wrap around why it decreased so much from the previous year to the next. It could be some of the appeals that have happened, some transfers of costs that through transfers of sales, the costs aren't as high. We were still trying to figure out why it went down. It really didn't make much of an impact on us. Whenever you're looking at the big, $726 million is a big number. So that's something that I'm going to continue to look at to see why did it decrease. And then the next line is the tax reduction allocation. So basically what that is that's the gaming money that the state has allotted out to our district. So what they're doing is basically giving us $703,000 to offset taxpayers' bills, or tax bills. So this year, 3,168 residents did get their homestead approvals. And basically what we do is we just take that amount amongst those 3,168, so everyone will have that filled out their homesteads will have a $222.17 reduction of their bill. And then the 1 mil is $726,000, which that's pretty close to what it's been over the last few years. So if we did have a necessity to raise taxes, that we know that every 1 mil we're going to get $726,000 approximate in tax revenue. Here's just the normal millage history that we always show. We did have 10 years of continuous tax increases, and as you can see, the last couple years, we raised taxes to the 26.7432 and 21.22. Last year we held taxes at that same rate, and we were going to do the same. So it's a nice trend to have, but we just have to really look before we keep saying that we're not going to raise taxes ever again, because it's honestly, we've discussed in the finance committees, it's not in this day and time and day, it's not feasible to not really look at getting increases once in a while over the next few years. So
Keith, sorry to interrupt, quick historical comment on that. The reason we had 10 years of tax increases was 11-12 roughly was when the state changed their accounting for the pension, for the state pension, and we, along with every other district, had to change our tax structure to account for that and start to pay a lot more into the PSERS
that's
retirement fund. So that was
that's exactly
why that happened.
All right, so getting into the budget itself. You've seen these slides before, but one thing that I really like to show with this, and especially with this graphic, is if you look from this yellow line all the way to the top, of that $33.9 million, 63% of that comes from local tax money. So it is very, very important that we are constantly looking at ways of how are we better utilizing this money, because it's not money coming from the state. It's not money coming from the state. It's coming from the taxpayers. So as you can see, $21 million of that 33 is local. State is $10 million, and the federal is only the 1.9. But of that 1.9, most of it's the ESSER grant. So we are very dependent on our local constituents, and it's something that we constantly have to keep in mind. It's something that Dr. Pryor and I are always looking at, is are we doing the best that we can to utilize that money? So that's what I really wanted to give the takeaway for this this slide here. And then on the expenditures, basically this slide, what I want you to take away from this is, how are we using that money? Are we using it properly? Are we putting the money to where the kids are? And as you can see here, the blue and the orange, that is money that's going directly to the kids or impacting the kids. So we're looking at 94% of our budget, we are able to take that money and put it some way into the students' hands or into impact the students' education. That's really a great slide to understand that, yes, the taxes are always hard to swallow when you have to pay them, but when you know that it's going to a good work or to good use, not being wasted on throwing it out for debt or for other frivolous items, this really lets us know that we are doing it pretty good, that we are focusing and we are student-centered on this. So. And then breaking it down a little bit deeper, if you look at the personnel costs, that's always going to be the largest, and always will be the largest here at the schools. The green and the yellow, those are our personnel costs. They make up 68% of our total costs and expenditures. It's some of the highlights of it. Contractual wage increases, we'll always have those. This year it was a $398,000 increase. The biggest item that affected the size, especially in the yellow, was the medical cost. Traditionally, we've been right around 8% increases, 7-8% increases in the past. This year, unfortunately, it was 14%. And from what we've been told, the increase is going to be right around 14-15% moving forward. So that was a $224,000 increase just by them making that decision that we need to, raise our cost. Granted, some of that cost will be made up by the employees who have to pay, a portion of the health care. I know that for the professional, the admin group, our amount that we have to pay back is based on the cost. So it does, as the costs increase, then the amount that we have to pay increases. Other units have a set amount. But still, it's something that no one was expecting and something that we unfortunately have had to accept. One good note, which I don't know if it is a good note, is PSERS did go down for the first time from 35.26 to 34%. They say it's because of the same issue that we had with our interest. The interest was gaining so much more. They had historical numbers and interest, so they decided they'd give everyone a break. Well, it's only going to be short-lived because starting next year, it's going back up, and it's going to start increasing again. So we all knew that there was going to be a plateau coming. We thought that this was going to be the plateau, but from what they're anticipating, it's going to go up to 38-39% before it even starts plateauing. And you can go right on the PSERS site, and that's what they show projected. So yes, a decrease, but it's nothing that we can jump up and down and say, yeah, this is great. And then just a couple other big things. Debts and transfers. I just put that on there just to show that it is such a low number. The transfers actually, I believe I did, I think it was $400,000 or almost $500,000 that I'm transferring of that money is going to the capital projects plans to fund the projects that we have discussed and said that we were going to do this year to upgrade and to fix the infrastructure. Tuition, another big cost. It's 1.1% or $2.8 million. So of that $2.8 million is still the charter schools. Charter schools are costing the district right now approximately $1.5 million. We have 75 students that are right now, that's been our high for this year. In the last couple of years, it's been up to 90. So the numbers are going down, but unfortunately, even though the numbers are going down, the costs are going up. Because unfortunately, as we all know and we've discussed in past years and many meetings, the report that we have to do to figure out the amount of money that we pay for charter schools is based on our budget. And what we say should be what the budget is, the charter schools will sometimes fight us. And we've actually just had a battle with one school where they were questioning some of our numbers, and I mean, they took it all the way to the state on us. But it was something that we were able to resolve, but it's just, that's how cutthroat some of these charter schools are. It's one of those things that it's not gonna go away, we have to accept. And we can do the best we can to try to get charter school reform in, and I know that that is a big thing that's happening over in Harrisburg and different places, but we just got to keep it going because even though it's something that we have every day, it's something that if we can keep the kids, it's only going to be better for us. So.
Keith, another quick interruption. We talk about that almost every summer, I think, charter schools and drivers. Maybe this summer we can do the same thing and have somebody kind of present what's the numbers, what's the plan, and even if we impact it by 10%, 15%, it can be a big change to our budget. So maybe we can
And that's effectively 2 mills going to charter school tuition
Yes,
in Texas.
basically 2 million of taxes, that's a good way to put it. Absolutely. That's why it's good to put that millage number on there so that you know when you have these expenditures, what is it costing the community?
Keith, you have charter schools as half of the tuition. What's the other half?
Those are special education students that are outplaced. Is it outsourced too? Is that outplaced? Students that, disciplinary students that are court placed. I mean, so anything that has to do with tuition that we have to pay for students that are our students, not at our location.
So is Parkway in there too?
Sorry?
Parkway?
Parkway is in the tuition, correct?
Parkway?
Parkway is also in
tuition.
Because we are paying to have our students
Okay.
educated at a different location. So the only time is the parochial schools, of course, we don't pay. But if it's a charter school, a tech school, or Parkway,
Parkway.
any of the outplaced schools,
Okay.
that's exactly what those are.
Okay.
All right, and the last thing on there was transportation, but as you can see, going through the pie slice, I have it written down exactly where the costs are going and what the breakdown is for everything on for the budget broken down. This, I'm not gonna go through this slide, this is just another one of those that, it's just a good tool that we go by major object so that we can look at the budget of 2022, 23, look at the budget of 23, 24, and we have to look to see, are we seeing the changes we expect? We should expect salaries and medical costs to always go up. And then when we do see decreases, such like in our property services, can we justify it? If it's not something that we can't justify, then we know that we have to relook at that section of the budget to say, are we missing something? So a lot of the items that you do see on here, they're all ESSER related for that. That's all listed there. All right, fund balance. So Dr. Cryer and I were looking at this today. We're trying to figure out a way to really put a good picture on the fund balance of where were we going. We went back, I think last year I did 20 years worth, and it was just a bunch of up and down numbers, and it really didn't make much sense. But what I did now is we took and went back 5 years. The red is the current budget. And what I did is I really wanted to focus on, these are our actual undesignated fund balances. So these are the fund balance that does not include the dedicated funds that we have set out. So what it does show us is, if you start right here in 2018-19, going into 2019-20, just before COVID, our fund balance was declining. We got into the COVID period and the ESSER period, and as you see, gradually every year we have increased our fund balance. So we basically went from $2.3 million up to 7.795, and with this year's budget, with no use of the fund balance, we've hit our peak, which we expected to hit our peak for our fund balance, because this is the last year of true maximum ESSER money. We'll have a little bit left over for next year, but the majority of it's going to be spent. So then you have the cliff. So everything here in the blue is from our projection that we talked about over the last couple finance meetings. The blue, we totally control. So we basically, we always say about the cliff, we've been talking about the cliff, we control how steep or how steady our slope is going to be for that cliff. Because this is exactly when it's going to start going down, because there's not going to have the ESSERs. We're going to have our amounts that I talked about earlier, that we offset some of our recurring expenditures to use ESSER money, but now ESSER money's gone to pay for it, and now it comes back to the budget. So the way that we have this going is based on the 5-year projection that I shared with the group during the finance committee meeting. like I said, all of this in the blue is totally controlled by myself, Dr. Kreider, the administrators, the board. So those can be manipulated by how do we, look at our expenditures? Are we able to find different types of revenue to offset some of that ESSER money? So everything that we can do to make the expenditure line go down is going to make our line go back up. So when you're looking at the percentages, we got up to a high of almost 24% for our fund balance. By the time we get to 28, 29, we're going to be right about that 8% that we should be at per the state. So that's basically just what I wanted to show you there, is that there's the slope. We knew we were going to go up, we were going to hit the peak, now we're going down. So it's up to all of us, and during our finance committees, talking to the administrators, to make that slope easier. And eventually what we want to do is we want to make that line straight across, so that we get it to the point where we're not going down, we're going steady, not using the fund balance. So I hope that kind of put a picture on.
Keith, is a fair takeaway that if you're looking at the black line, which is showing fund balance as a percentage
Of expenditures.
that the COVID years, the last 4 whatever years, the middle of that arc is sort of unnaturally inflated because of the COVID money.
Absolutely, 100%.
And that in a year or two, we will be returning to a more typical
Correct.
ratio.
And as you see, that's exactly what it's showing, is that in 2018-19, we were right around 9%, 8%. In 10 years, we're going to be back to there if we don't make any changes, or if we're not aggressive at trying to change it. So you're absolutely right. That line, that black line, is based on what do we do moving forward. It includes raising taxes, not raising taxes. Like I said, finding revenues that we don't expect or that we didn't have before, cutting costs. Looking at every retirement, say, do we need to have that person, replaced? So there's a lot of work that we have to do, because honestly, it's comfortable being where we are right now. But when you start getting down to that $3 million fund balance, then that's when you have to really start looking at everything. So, and I'll put some assumptions down at the bottom there. This does also include $1.7 million that we're going to put into capital projects. So that's basically taking what we talked about with our 5-year capital projects plan. Worst case, what could we do and spend? So right there, we could immediately chop off $1.7 million if we chose to do that. So that's what I mean about the fluctuation up and down. That's what I have for the fund balance. Any other questions? All right, quickly on ESSERS, I know that several board members have asked, and it's good for the public to know what have we done with the ESSERS. For this upcoming year, I have $1,041,287,000 of ESSERS budgeted. And what I did is I broke this down into 2 categories, reoccurring and non-reoccurring. So basically, the reoccurring is what I was talking about at the cliff. Those are items that this year are covered by ESSERS, but next year they're not. So what that includes is our chill rooms at the high school, Carnegie and Crafton. The educational software that we're now currently being funded by the ESSERS, the guidance counselor, and our nurse assistant. So those are items that we chose to take and use ESSER money for, knowing that they were recurring, that we felt that we would be able to handle years moving forward. The non-recurring is the technology, so it's $684,000, technology upgrades, summer school and tutoring, the intervention specialist, and that's one that we'll have to talk about next year, maintenance of capital projects, and the curriculum refresh. So that's just what is in budget for next year that you're going to be approving. So last year, just highlight, we replaced the windows. We're completing that project at Crafton Elementary. We had after-school tutoring for the kids at the high school, and I believe we did some at the elementary, mainly at the high school. over the spring. Summer school, which is happening currently, and we put ESSER's money into mental health resources, and we did a big textbook refresh of, as you can see here, in math 9 to 12, social studies K to 12, and science K to 4. So that's what we did in 22-23. What we plan on doing in 23-24 is we're going to bring the chill room to Crafton. We're going to finally put a HVAC system in the Carnegie Gym. As we all know during graduation how warm that is down there. So we're going to start looking into putting that in there. We're going to start refreshing the technology for the staff. Carpet and tile replacement district-wide. We have select areas. We have a bid out currently to do that. We're going to have summer school next year, and we also plan on doing after-school tutoring. And then finally, we're going to have another round of textbook purchases for the science, math, ELA, and world languages. And with doing the textbook purchasing and the staff technology replacements, I know with the textbooks, talking to Dr. Mantich, that basically gives us 6 years now before we have to really start looking at refreshing. So that this had to be done anyways, whether we had the ESSER money or not. So we took advantage of having this ESSER money. So now we have time to plan out how's our next move in 6 years. So that was one of those really good ESSER purchases that we did.
On that slide, we talked extensively last week about the HVAC system in the gym and carpet and tile and holding on those things until we talk
Correct.
holistically, so we're not locked in then.
No, we're absolutely not locked in. What we're doing is we did go out for a bid for a carpet and tile just so that we can see what kind of prices are out there. And the carpet and tile is not only wrapped in the ESSERs, but it's also in the general fund budget. So you're absolutely right. We won't process anything until we get, we sit down in the next finance committee meeting and say, okay, what is our plans for the capital projects? But that's exactly right. Yep. And then the last thing I have is we got to start looking about the next year's budget, the 24-25, believe it or not. So there it is, the ESSER cliff. We talked about it, I've said it over and over again. Bargaining units, contract negotiations. We've discussed that also in finance committees, just to be aware that they're out there. We have two units, I believe, and a couple small confidential secretary budget or contracts that have to be done, and then the increasing healthcare and visa costs. So never too early to start looking at next year, unfortunately, but that's basically it. In a nutshell. Questions?
Keith, I hear that taxes are not going up next year. Is that
Taxes are not going up. I don't want this to think, I've been here for 3 years and I haven't raised taxes 2 years. I do, it's hard. It's hard. That's all I can say. But yes, I'm glad that we are able to give you a budget that you don't have to raise taxes.
Wonderful.
Okay? Thank you.
While you're shutting down, one last quick point. I thought your graphs and charts and the color and the breakdowns help the board digest things, and I'm sure the public appreciates the more
Good.
optically friendly presentation of material. So.
And what we'll do is I'll have it on the website so that anyone can pull it up and look at it anytime. But yeah, I found that the visual makes it much easier because this is tough to understand. It really is.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's number 2 of our 12 reports. Good to see things next up. No, that concludes our reports for this evening.
All right, wonderful, thank you. It's all good news. Under committee reports, Director Apple's not here today. Anybody have any Parkway news to share, or we'll skip till next time then? Pathfinder.
Pathfinder?
Yeah.
We had 12 graduates, none of whom were from Carleton. We're finalizing the $500,000 transfer from the AIU, what was really a surprise to us, but it came at a very good time because all 3 of our schools are starting to break down.
All right,
We
Pathfinder.
We haven't, do you have a question, Jim?
No, just the Pathfinder schools you said are in need of repair and you're grateful. for-
Pathfinder and
Okay.
the other two also,
Okay.
Montvale and Civic. We have an apprenticeship program that's been very successful because we have the T right next to the school. Kids get on the T. First way, they're educated in our transportation system and they're getting jobs off of the T all the way into downtown Pittsburgh. And all of the apprenticeship kids have been offered jobs, which is really impressive. We're gonna have a summer program. I think it's already started, has it?
It starts in July.
Yeah, oh, July,
Yes,
okay,
yeah.
that's right. That's it, thanks.
All right, thank you. Shazda, I think the last event was in May? Okay, so no updates, up until the fall. Okay, wonderful, thank you. Legislative PSBA.
That's
Jessica.
It's me now.
Undo my mental block of all
No,
the
you're good, you're good. So today, COSBA had a webinar for food insecurity that I attended. It was about an hour long, it was nice. Basically, they just explored the issue of food insecurity and how that affects children and families. And they provided some steps that school districts can take, like school programs such as universal free lunches and summer meal programs, which is great because we're already doing that, so that was great to see. And then for schools to partner with families and parents to explain that there are benefits available such as SNAP and WIC, which I believe we also are already doing, communicating. And a good motto that they left us with is magnify, strengthen, and advance. On to the next thing, just a small update about that court ruling from February that ruled Pennsylvania's education system unconstitutional. A reorganized basic education funding commission met on June 7th for an informational hearing to develop and recommend a new formula for allocating the state funding to Pennsylvania's public schools. That commission consists of 15 members, equally split of all 4 legislative caucuses, and 3 appointees from Governor Shapiro's administration, and specifically they're from PDD and Office of the Budget. But basically, the group only makes a recommendation, and that recommendation will be subject to approval by both chambers and the governor before being enacted. So they didn't come up with anything, I mean, they talked about it, but the next meetings are set for July 18th and 19th, and that's all still obviously in the works, but it'll be interesting to see what type of recommendation they eventually come up with. And then lastly, just to touch on the state budget real quick, obviously June is huge budget season in Harrisburg, so Governor Shapiro's proposed budget for K through 12 education includes an increase of $567.3 million through the basic education funding formula, which is about an 8% increase over the last year. It calls for an additional $103.8 million for special ed, which is a 7.77% increase, and almost a $24 million increase for career and tech ed, an additional $100 million for school safety and security grants, another $100 million increase to create a school-based mental health support block grant, and lastly, the proposal includes a $38.5 million increase for universal free breakfast and expanded eligibility for free school lunch. That was introduced in June. It was passed through the House very early on, but obviously that's going to change, and hopefully they will have the finalized budget passed by June 30th, but we'll see. And that's all.
Quick addition or comment on your food safety, food and security topic. I agree with you, it's awesome that we do that here, and I know it's probably a bit of an administrative pain in the butt to juggle that, but I think it makes a real impact for, it might be a huge number of students and families, but the fact that we do that, I applaud and I appreciate it, and hopefully the board agrees that we should continue to do that as long as we're able to do that, because it can make a real difference for some families that are struggling.
Yep,
So.
absolutely.
Any questions on Jessica's report? Nope. Now I'll look down here and see if Dr. Simzik has anything.
So, I mean, I know they're kind of talking about, you know, the golf outing in the fall, so, you know, what we're going to do with that, but we didn't officially meet, so maybe have more next time.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments on committee-related items? If not, we can move on. Under section 4 of our agenda, we have a handful of items. I will entertain a motion to approve, number 1, the additions to the list of conferences for the 22-23 school year as submitted. Number 2, the list of conferences for the 23-24 school year as submitted. Number 3, the attached MOU between the Carlington School District and Robert Moore University to allow Carlington High School students to enroll in college-level coursework while at Carlington. Number 4, the donation of ukuleles for Carnegie
That's my
Elementary.
favorite.
It's a first one. I've never seen that. How many ukuleles did we get? I'm sorry.
We'll find out during open comments and questions. Number 5, the health and safety plan for the 23-24 school year. Number 6, the client assignment confirmation between Carlington School District and Soliant for a speech and language pathologist for the 23 extended school year program. Number 7, flexible instruction days plan for the 23-24 school year. Number 8, the sale, scrap, or donation of a Toro riding mower. Do I have a motion for those 8 items under section 4?
Second.
Moved and second, thank you. Any discussion or questions, including from our solicitor?
No, I'm fine.
You withdraw your
I
question?
withdraw. that
Okay,
question.
okay.
I do have a question for Dr. Kreider.
Yes.
So I'm encouraged to see college and high school programming, but there's one class that's offered. Is there an opportunity, or do we have a plan to offer additional college and high school programming? Or is this the only one?
This is the MOU just between us and RMU. So we also have MOUs with Pitt, LaRoche,
Yeah.
Spanish.
don't think Duquesne. So there's 3 total MOUs, so we do have multiple CHS opportunities for students. Not just, yeah, that's just the chemistry agreement we go through RMU.
Got it.
And ukulele donations, who has the number of ukuleles that have been?
I'm sorry.
I want to say it was 12.
I think it is.
Good round.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Under section 5, finance, again, several items, 9 in total. I'll entertain a motion to approve the following items. Number 1, the bills for May 24th through June 15th, 2023, in the amount of $3,257,379.28. Number 2, the following reports as reflected in the June 2023 financial reports packet: the May 2023 Treasurers Report, Investment Report, Board Summary Report, Athletic Fund Report, and Junior Senior High School Activities Fund Report. Number 3, the 2023-24 General Fund Budget with expenses in the amount of $33,956,779 with a millage rate of 26.7432. Number 4, the PSBA membership dues for the 23-24 school year, including policy and regulation maintenance, in the amount of $12,307.57. Number 5, the substitute teacher service agreement for the 23-24 school year. Number 6, the resolution numbers 2023-01, establishing the millage for real estate taxation for the 23-24 fiscal year as follows. Resolved that the Carlington School District does hereby levy and assess the real estate tax for the fiscal year for all taxable property in the district for the boroughs of Carnegie, Crafton, and Roslyn Farms at 26.7432 mils, or $2.67432 on each $100 of the assessed valuation on all property for school purposes, and all other tax rates remain unchanged. Item number 7, resolution number 2023-02, to accept the funds made available through Act 1, the Homestead Farmstead Tax Relief Act. Qualified homeowners within the district will realize a savings of approximately $221.17. Number 8, to renew the public official bonding for Board Secretary Keith Bealby and Treasurer Jude Frank. And finally, number 9, the agreement between the Carlington School District and the Allegheny Health Network Chill Program starting August 1st through July 31st. Starting August 1st, 2023 through July 31st, 2024. Do I have a motion for those long 9 items under section 5?
So second.
Moved and second, thank you. Any discussion or questions? Anybody excited about not a tax increase for next year? Yes. So if there's no other questions or comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Under Section 6 Personnel, we have 3 items. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Number 1, the elimination of a personal care 1-on-1 aide position at Carnegie Elementary. Number 2, the creation of a personal care 1-on-1 aide at Carleton Junior Senior High School. Number 3, the personnel agenda as submitted. I have a motion for those 3 items.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion or questions? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under the rest of 6, we'll look at 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'll entertain a motion to approve number 4 under Section 6, to authorize the superintendent to hire staff and accept resignations on behalf of the board during the months of June, July, and August 2023, provided the superintendent collaborates with the board president and or vice president. The board will retroactively ratify these decisions and actions during the next regularly scheduled meeting in accordance with the Sunshine Act. Number 5, to approve the supplemental activities list and returning sponsors and advisors for the 23-24 school year. Stipends for the supplemental position holders are contingent upon completion of the full school year and will be prorated in the event of a shortened or canceled season due to unforeseen circumstances. Number 6, to renew Lisa Rowley as the Federal Programs Coordinator under the terms outlined in the MOU between the Carleton School District and the Carleton Federation of Teachers dated July 12th, 2022. Number 7, to approve the supplemental athletic list for coaches for the 23-24 school year. Stipends for the supplemental position holders are contingent upon completion of the full school year and will be prorated in the event of a shortened or canceled season due to unforeseen circumstances. Number 8, the curriculum supplemental positions for the 23-24 school year. Number 9, the memorandum of understanding between the Carleton School District and the Carleton Federation of Teachers to hire a psychologist position at the elementary level for 1 year. Do I have a motion for those items 3 through 9 under Section 6 Personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under Section 7, student activities, we have 2 items. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Number 1, the additions to the list of field trips for the 22-23 school year. And number 2, list of field trips, additions, and the list of field trips for the 23-24 school year as submitted. Do I have a motion for those 2 items under Section 7?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under Section 8, policy, we have a couple of updates. I'll entertain a motion to approve number 1, the second reading of policy numbers 137, 137.2, 137.3, 146.1, 220, 237, 800, 808, 830, and 830.1 submitted. And then number 2, to approve the first reading of the following policy numbers, number 137.1, 150, 249, 251, 252, 626, 705, and 803. Do I have a motion for those 2 items under policy?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Old business. Any director of any old business they would like to bring up tonight? Nope. New business. Any director of any new business they would like to discuss? No. Open forum. Anybody in the public have questions they'd like to bring up under open forum? We do have one person who signed up. Marlene, Ms. Chadu, would you like to speak?
Hi, I'm Marlene Chayeda. I've lived in Grafton from 1989. I'm a mayor, and I'm the Republican committee woman of Grafton. And I wanted to bring to your attention, I had everyone get a questionnaire from American Family Association. And voters have increasingly become aware of how very important school board races are. And they have sent a questionnaire to all the candidates that are running. So did you all get one in the mail? And did you get one too?
Yes.
And but not one of you filled it out. So I'm asking you if you will fill it out and fax it to AFAPA students.com, if you would do that. Will you? Not one of you will.
Ma'am, that would be up to the individual board members. The board as a whole can't legislate that.
No, I meant
That
to
would-
ask you.
Ma'am, that would be an individual board decision. The board itself cannot legislate that. Understood?
Yes, but
Thank you.
I'm mentioning that they got one individually. I'm telling you what they were mailed individually. If they didn't get it in a group, I'm clarifying that to you. And also, the last question I have, I was wondering if anyone here would make a motion to allow the Bible back into the library. I wanted to mention to you that Montour does have a Bible in their library. They've never taken it out. And it's fine with them. And I have the information here from the U.S. Department of Education that we are allowed to do that. It's not against the law. And then I also gave to each one of you information so you can learn a little bit about the Constitution online, because a lot of you have not really known much about it. I have to come and keep reporting to you what's the law and what's not the law. But if you look for yourself, it would be good, beneficial to all of you. But would one of you make the motion to allow the Bible to be put back into the library like it's been in Montour, the Montour School? Would one of you make that motion?
Marlon, I think I've denied, like the coward Simon Peter 3 times. I'm gonna make that motion. There's nothing wrong with having the Bible in all varieties of the Bible, Christian Bible and the Jewish Bible, also in the schools. So I'll make that motion.
Thank you, George.
If there's no second, I won't comment on the legality of it. It would die in its own.
Excuse me.
Ma'am, I'm not addressing you, I'm addressing the board. Is there a second to that motion? Hearing none, there would be the motion would die, there would be no further discussion.
Well, at least I know who to vote for in November, because the 4 of them are up for election. Thank you, George, and God bless you.
Any other comments or questions from the public tonight? If not, turning to the board, any questions or comments for open forum?
I just wanted to say congratulations to the graduating class. I had to leave, but I know everyone else was there. So congratulations to the class of 2023.
Thanks. Any other open forum items? Nope. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? We are adjourned.
Thank you.
So.
Okay.